Good afternoon and welcome traders to our Thursday, September 28, 2023 market recap and trade recap for the day. Let's get right into it and take a look at the markets. We had a little bounce back day today in the markets, as you can see here. SPX jumped about 25 points or about 0.6%. So getting back a good chunk of yesterday and a little bit of the day before. So pretty good, healthy bounce day overall. So why did we bounce? What was the catalyst for it? I really think it was just we were oversold. If you take a look at the daily chart here on the right-hand side, hopefully you can see this okay. On the daily chart, I mean, we were well extended, well beyond the 3 ATR here, down to this lower edge of this descending, set of lower lows here. So just in this channel, hitting the bottom of this channel, bouncing off of that, getting overextended on 3 ATR, having the RSI be oversold. All of those things, I think, just added up to just a little bit of a relief bounce day on the session. Pretty much an up day for the most part. I mean, we opened decently and just slowly moved up throughout the session. Did finish off of our highs, but still finished closer to the highs than the middle, and I think that's positive. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I mean, there is just no guarantee that there's going to be any follow-through to this at all. However, on the positive side, we did bounce off of this downtrend channel. We're very close to a support level here. We're very close to the 200-day moving average. MACD did turn over today, and RSI did move higher on the session. So that's on the daily chart. On the weekly, still very negative. MACD, RSI falling below 50 as we move lower here with lower lows and lower highs. So overall, we are definitely still in a current downtrend, which could just be a pullback in a longer-term uptrend. Just maybe making this little flag, part to this up move, and maybe it's a bull flag. Who knows? We'll see what happens if we get a decent move higher, and what happens when we get to the top of this channel, if we even get there, or do we try to get this gap filled? Do we fail? Do we keep moving up? We'll see what happens, but the 21 moving average has dropped below the 50. It's heading lower. Let's see where we are, and we really are just inside the Bollinger Band, which is still heading lower. So there's nothing here to indicate that this could continue, but there's also nothing saying that it won't. So we'll just wait and see what tomorrow brings us on SPY. As far as the Qs, pretty similar action today. I'm going to take a few of these things off from a little day trading action here. And if we take a look at the Qs, we did break below this previous neckline area. We did bounce. We didn't get as extended to the downside as SPY was. This is the second update on MACD. So overall, the Q is looking much better. Didn't get oversold on RSI, but it's heading higher. MACD has turned around, and you're not far from a PSAR reversal if we can get up to 362, which is only 4 points or so away on the Qs, and we were up almost 3 points today alone. So another day or two, you could get a bullish PSAR, reversal moving higher. Things could look a whole lot better in a couple sessions. So we'll see what happens on the Qs, but overall, tech stocks had a decent day on the session. If we look at IWM, this head and shoulders pattern, again, triggered just like SPY, but we did bounce from some oversold territories here. Again, a second day in a row on IWM as well, moving higher. So again, these things look decently constructive. Not saying the lows are in by any stretch, but you've also bounced off of this uptrend support. So if you take a look at this uptrend line that we started back here on September 26th of last year, we've come down, bounced off it once, bounced off it twice, now bounced off it 3 times, or pretty doggone close to it. Does that trigger the next move higher in IWM? We'll see what happens. Overall, number of S&P stocks under their or above their 50-day moving average. moved up slightly to 19%, so, or 0.19 here on the chart. Still very, very, I think, oversold. And I think that's a very bullish looking tool here. If we look at the put call ratios, I mentioned these yesterday, that we were, way over the one, and one of the highest readings that we've seen in quite some time yesterday. So that was a very bullish signal, seeing that the volume of puts well above the volume of calls, and that's again a contrarian indicator. So being that high, about 1.7, again, you can look back, you haven't seen anything like that for months. So maybe we get some move down here on the put call ratio, but overall, again, that's also a somewhat bullish sign. VIX dropped today back to 17. I mean, I don't really put any stock in the VIX, but lots of people like to talk about it, so I will talk about it. I think the VIX is kind of a dead indicator now. I don't think it holds a lot of juice for anything. On the US dollar, something we don't see too often, a down day on the US dollar. Fantastic, hallelujah. Getting overextended all the way up to the 3 ATR, top of the Bollinger Band, above its highs back here from September of last year, of March of this year. So it broke through that high, and now pulling back a bit. We'll see, does that previous resistance level now become support? We'll see what happens, but we'll keep an eye on where we are. But nice to see the dollar pulling back, as it's been overbought for a little bit now on the daily. Not quite there yet on the weekly, but getting into that overbought territory. So we'll see what happens, but a nice pullback here. And then TLT spent most of its day down, fractionally higher on the session. It was actually down again most of the day. The weekly is still very much down and negative as you continue to fall. MACD and RSI just falling. TLT, it is oversold. So let's see what happens here. 1 day move does not make a trend reversal. We saw that here, and then the next day it gapped down significantly. We saw it here, the next day was down, and then 3 days later it gapped down again. So we've not really been able to stay in any sort of an up move. This was it right in here, in late August. That was the best looking. Then you thought, little pullback, and then maybe it goes, and it did not. It just collapsed further. So TLT still weak, still down, still not a buy signal there. And if we look at the 10-year yield, again, along with the US dollar, but I think this is what's leading it, the 10-year yield gave back a bit today. Now, it did spike to new highs on the session, so it did set a new high up here at 46, 90 almost. So 4.69, 4.7%. I think it wants the 5%. Well, we'll see what happens, but that's nice to see. MACD gave back a little today. RSI being overbought. Let's see if we get a down move here. They're overbought on the weekly as well. We just need this thing to either trend sideways or start to trend down. And I think that'll certainly help a lot of things in there. That being said, with the dollar dropping today, as you would expect, Forex moved higher. So here's the Aussie dollar. Nice recovery day back to the 21 EMA, looking pretty good after bouncing off the lower Bollinger Band today. Good overall sign in the markets for this. It looks solid on the weekly and decent on the daily. Let's see if we get any more follow through. British pound, it was just an up day off of a million down days in a row. Very oversold. Definitely due for a little bit of a bounce here. We'll see what happens. Canadian dollar has held up pretty well and continued to hold up well today. Decent MACD and RSI on the weekly. RSI moving higher on the daily, breaking back above its 21 EMA today, stopping out around the 50 and the 200. Let's see what happens on the Canadian dollar. And then on the euro, of course, after we were stopped out on a strangle yesterday, I told you this is exactly what would happen, but you got stopped out on a big down outlier move here and then reversed and gained back almost everything from yesterday. We'd still be in our strangle, just happened to get ticked out. So we top ticked or bottom ticked our strangle on ES. Again, coming off of oversold, we'll see what happens, but the weekly still has not begun to turn at all yet. So I think you've got to be cautious trading the euro at this point in time. And then oil had a down day today. So oil gave back a bit, which is nice to see. Very healthy for our strangles. We don't need this thing going up for 12, 13 weeks here. It's nice to see a little sideways action now and then. Oil giving back a bit, RSI coming off of overbought territory, MACD back to flat and rolling over a little bit on the weekly. So have we seen the highs in oil? Today we did hit a new, more recent high, not all-time highs, but we did manage to make it all the way up to about 95 almost, 94, 91 or so was the high for the day. Actually 95.03 was the high for the day. So we made it all the way up to 95 and then we closed all the way down at 91. So a nice pullback day, getting back a lot of what it rallied up yesterday. Yesterday was just a big kind of blow-off-ish move, which I think can be very positive for a lot of our trades. On the other hand, gold, pretty negative day today, breaking through this previous decently old support line. We broke through it, but then we closed right on it. So still kind of valid here because we didn't break through and stay below. Now, MACD falling, RSI falling, but RSI is definitely in oversold territory. It's extended beyond the 3 ATR. Let's see if gold can catch a little bit of a break here and potentially move higher. It was in that triangle pattern. It broke to the downside as we talked about weeks ago that was forming, and we talked about several days ago on this breakout. So we saw it coming to the downside. We continue to play strangles in gold, so a little bit of a bounce here would be great for our strangles. If not, they're just hanging in there as we move kind of up and down and sideways. I mean, we're really nowhere, down too far from where we were just about 3 months ago, and we're at levels that we were just at back in March. So when we rallied higher significantly. So nothing wrong with gold in here. Let's take a look at what sectors did what today. And if we take a look at the biggest moving sector to the upside, well, that's going to be your XRT. So retail ETF, retailers bounced decently today. Good bid under retailers. XLY, which is your consumer goods, which is your Amazon and your Teslas, moved up 1.1%. XLC, which is your communications, that's your Meta and your Google, moved up decently, of which I like, again, both of those stocks. I think they're in good positions here. And then on XLB, that's your materials, up 1%, real estate up 1%, regional banks up 1% today. So, and financials up about 0.7%, along with the techs right behind it. Your only two lagging sectors on the day was utilities. Look at this thing just getting crushed. Utilities getting smoked out there. So a terrible week for utilities. One of the worst weeks we've seen in quite some time. Now these can move decently in a week. As you can see back here, we had another pretty bad week in July. Now we're seeing it again here in September. RSI definitely oversold, but MACD heading lower, and the weekly is just heading lower as well. And then XBI, which is your biotechs, bounced a bit the last couple sessions. Today wasn't a bad day. Yes, it was down, but only down about 0.3%. 0.3% is not going to really do a whole lot of anything. MACD is moving up. RSI is starting to move up. So maybe biotechs are a bit overdone here. This might be a good sector to look at for a potential bounce if the markets move higher. We'll take a quick look at a few stocks, and I called out some today for the members, and I posted some Twitter charts out there. Amazon was not one of these. Amazon pretty much flat on the session today. So Amazon did nothing for the second straight day. It did move down. So we gapped down and then finished higher. Amazon did not look good on the day at all. Does not look good on the weekly at all. Daily just fair, but breaking support here. I'm not super optimistic on Amazon. It's not one of my favorites right now. Apple, also not one of my favorites. The weekly looks pretty bad on this one. And even though we moved up slightly today, really didn't affect much of anything. Not looking great right here. Microsoft, still not looking good on the weekly either. Maybe getting a little bit of a break here at the 3 ATR and the Bollinger Band on the daily. Still not something I would jump into unless you want to play some kind of a bounce for a put credit spread. I think that's a little dangerous still in this pretty solid down move that you see. So this down move continues to move, and we'll see. In fact, we can probably draw another trend line in here. I'm going to eyeball it a tad, and then we'll fix it up. But for the most part, this is really what this downtrend looks like. So we'll keep an eye on where things may go, but it's opening up as it moves down. So it's really not a positive look. However, Meta, I think, does look fairly decent. It is trying to turn up on the MACD weekly. RSI is not continuing to fall and has not fallen for 5 or 6 weeks in a row. MACD's actually been, or RSI on the weekly has been strengthening, which has been a good sign. And you're seeing that in here. So I called this out as an opportunity today. I think a little bit of a move higher. We get to 307, which we were close to today. So on the day, the high was 306.33. If we can break 307 or so, I think we get a PSAR reversal. We are already back above the 21 EMA and the 50 EMA. I like Meta here. If we get any kind of a rally in the market, I think Meta definitely goes higher. I think you can see Meta run up into the 320 range or so. So we'll watch and see what happens tomorrow. I like Meta here. I also like Google as well. Not quite as nice as Meta, but it's decent. It's interesting. It hasn't broken back above the 21 EMA, so I'm not really ready yet to do much of anything. But RSI is moving higher. MACD is moving higher on the daily, even though the weekly has been a bit weak. But we bounced off this support, this previous resistance, which flipped to support. We bounced right off of that, moving higher. I think Google could be something to watch. It's not as ready as Meta. I think if you're looking at NVIDIA also, this is definitely a very interesting look. The weekly has been heading down. Now RSI is starting to stop the slide. But on the daily here, you've had a nice bounce off of the 3 ATR. MACD has been moving higher, okay, for 5 sessions in a row, as well as RSI heading back towards that 50. I think you want to take a look at this one. Oops, that's not what I wanted to move. And I think we can take a look at this and potentially start to put this on a watch list of something that might be interesting to jump into. So we'll take a look at NVIDIA in the coming days or so. I'm going to actually put the 50 line in here on the RSI. If we break above this 50, I'm going to get a little bit bullish here on NVIDIA. Let's see what happens. It may have already started. I'm okay missing part of that move. You did break this little downtrend that we had put on in here. Clean that up a little bit more, be a little bit more exact. But we did break this downtrend line that we had to the upside. I think if we get any kind of a pullback or a bounce higher, or we just continue to move higher, NVIDIA looking decent, along with Google. These are 2 to keep an eye on. I'm not ready yet until it gets above the 21 EMA. PSAR reverses bullish, and then maybe we can get in on a pullback of something higher. Not too shabby looking. Tesla, on the other hand, too, a decent bounce day today. nothing more than that. You can put it in a similar category to maybe Google or NVIDIA. It's still below its 21 and its 50 EMAs. We'll see what happens. But it's nowhere near exciting enough for me to want to get into. And then if we look at Netflix, we did break this support, which was a previous resistance, which is now support line. So we did break that yesterday. We tried to get above, or not above it, but we tried to move up a little bit on the session today. Pretty much a flat day to a slightly down day on Netflix, below that support, but right bouncing here really close to the 21. And then you have this long-term trend line, which looks to pretty much 1, 2, 3, and now 4 bounces off of this trend line. It's a pretty significant trend line. I think we bounced off it today. We are oversold. I think Netflix is something that's interesting. I think it would be a trade that you could play for a bounce here, but it did not react as well as many other stocks today, and it is very well below its 21 and 50. So nothing exciting there. I think I also, and this is not something I trade a ton of, but I thought Palantir looks very interesting here. If you look at the weekly, good support here. And if we zoom in on the daily, we bounced right off that support, okay, for the 3rd time here, moving higher today. Good move yesterday where we broke above that line. I'm going to do the same thing here. Sorry, this is taking a bit longer. I'll wrap up soon for you guys. But I want to put this 50 line in as well on the RSI here, because this is a real good trigger for me. Is, do we break above the 50? I want to see that to be bullish on a lot of up moves. And we did break it yesterday, or we were right at it yesterday. Today we moved above it. So MACD breaking positive. So you get a MACD positive crossover. You've got RSI breaking the 50. You've got Palantir now moving up right back to this previous uptrend line that we had. So let's see if we can break through this line, get a PSR reversal tomorrow, and we are back above the 21 and the 50 EMA. So Palantir, I think, looks really, really interesting. I think putting any kind of a trade on here with maybe like a put credit spread or something, just anywhere below this 13.5 level. I'd maybe even go down to 13, 12 and a half, something like that. I think you can put something on there and get a trade looking there. And then the last one is Square. I still like Square potentially here. It's not ready for prime time yet. And today, just a little bit of an up move. MACD's been moving higher. RSI oversold, hasn't broken through the oversold 30 level yet. So it's early. We're not there. Not time to do anything on Square yet. But you got this downtrend line that is definitely within range here. We'll see what happens on that. All right, that's enough markets, stocks today. If you guys like me looking at these stocks, let me know in comments to keep looking stocks. If you prefer me move on to other things quicker, let me know that in comments. If you like what I'm doing here, please go ahead and like this video, but share your comments on whether you like me covering the markets and stocks from a technical perspective before I jump into my account. And let's take a look at the account today. So the account today, fantastic day in the account. Deltas dropped 324. Of course, with the market moving up, deltas would naturally drop 0.11. This is as good that we've had in almost 2 weeks now, close to delta neutral on it. Theta hanging in there great at 1144, which is nearly a 0.4%, which is perfect, which is where we want. Net lick jumped up nearly $6,000 today. So everything that we gave back, we gave yesterday up, we gained it all back today and then some. So we're back higher than we were 3 days ago. So all of yesterday is gone and forgotten. We're now back above that, moving back up towards our all-time highs that we are getting close to. So a few percentage away from that, but we had a pretty significant update today, 2% up in the portfolio. A couple of those days would be pretty nice. BP usage dropped a fraction today, down to 76, 77%, of which, again, 10% of this is in bill ETF. So we're technically right now about 67%, still higher than our 50. But based on this sell-off, I feel pretty good in here. It's not forcing me to make any moves. This is why we try to keep it as close to 50 as possible, 60 when we include bill. If we keep it around that number, we give ourselves room for some of this expansion that we saw on this. So tracking your buying power and being smart gives us enough wiggle room to move and make some trades. And if we're paying attention to our delta and our theta, we're able to maneuver those around a bit to keep us making profits while the market may drop, Netlick might drop, but overall you're still making money on the month. We are up still 39.34 on the month, 1.32%. Yesterday was a decent day on the downside, but we're back on the positive side today, making $250. And yes, that's our old friend, the zero DTE trade. We put on an iron condor today. We placed this thing fairly early this morning, but after 10 o'clock, once the markets had moved up and then given back a little bit, I thought we would move a bit sideways or so from there. So instead of doing just a put credit spread today, which it did look like the markets were going to have an up day on the session. So I felt the put credit spread was good, but I felt I could get enough distance away on the call spread as we moved higher a little bit on the session. So we did put on an iron condor. We were able to close that for a 50% winner. So fantastic, 2.6% return on the capital that we used. So fantastic. We earned back, a third or so of what we lost yesterday, quarter to a third or so. So that was good. Another good zero DTE trading day. We're in good shape, good position on the account. Happy where we are on this particular account. Small account and the IRAs doing fantastic, having a great month. IRA, I believe, may be at a new all-time high, 26. Yes, so today is an all-time high on the IRA, and that's after we had a required minimum distribution of $10,720 on this account. So we've already taken out almost $11,000 on this account. So we've taken over $10,000 out of this account, and we're sitting at a new all-time high today. So while the markets are selling off, this account's at an all-time high. This account is built solely on two different trade strategies in this IRA. We are trading the long-term 112, and we are trading a few strangles, and that's it. You want to take a quick look? Here's what we got on. We've got a gold and an oil strangle. I did not mean to adjust those. So we got a gold and an oil strangle, and then we've got several 112 trades that are running in that account. So IRA is doing fantastic, doing exactly what you want it to do. If 2% a year or a month is what you want, 20-some% a year, this is really the way to do it, especially in your IRA. So we're doing fantastic in the IRA. All right, so there's our wrap up for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like this video, please click that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Let those friends know. If you get some value out of this, please share it with others. I hope you guys enjoy this. Let me know if you like me doing the charts at the beginning as well as the account trades, and we'll keep going. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Be safe.